Yesterday, we're on the Riverwatch camera, so the same camera that we were just looking at live footage from, uh, upstream of the Riverwatch camera, basically kind of like due west, where this area is circled. There was an interaction between 901 and a couple of other male bears. And Naomi, I'll cut to the clip of what we could see on the webcams. You were at the bridge at the time. Your perspective was different than what the webcam sees, though. But maybe you can kind of like
Yes.
walk us through what you saw, what you heard.
Yeah. So I was on the bridge and I saw 901 and she had what I am calling a kerfluffle. It was a disagreement. It was a little fight with another bear. And I noticed it seemed unusual because I don't usually see bears fighting with each other on the lower river at this time of year. They kind of spread out, catch the dead and dying salmon. There's play fighting, but not real fighting. And so I saw her, and that's what I saw. She was not happy with that other bear.
Yeah, so as we look at this recorded clip from yesterday, this is around 7 p.m. Eastern time or so. 901 was the lighter bear on the bank. She walked upstream. Her cubs were somewhere in this vicinity. There was a young adult male in the vicinity at the time, and she backs him into the river. So, and he doesn't really put up a fight. He's like, yeah, 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 okay. I wasn't, wasn't trying to cause any trouble here. I got you. You sent your message. I'm going to go on my way. But then, as the camera zooms in, Naomi, we'll find out there's a much bigger bear in the willows that we can't see from this perspective, and you weren't able to see him either, right?
No, from where I was on the bridge, I did not see that. The willows obscured that bear from my perspective. I was, say, probably a little to the left from on the bridge, so I couldn't see that bear.
And that's a pretty uh, big bear in the background there that'll come right out, give a sort of a short charge towards number 901. So again, we don't at this point in time we don't know where her cubs are. I think it's we can presume that they're in the near vicinity, but we don't actually know. But then you see this big guy come out of the woods right over there, number 32 Chunk, and his behavior in that situation, Naomi, we don't really know what his motivation was. I think there's an argument to be made that he did that just because he's a real dominant bear and he doesn't like other bears approaching him. So we don't know if he was interacting with the cubs in this vicinity at the time. We don't know where they were. There's a lot of brush in that area, a lot of places for cubs to scatter and to hide. There are trees to climb. They could be running, towards taller trees. Uh, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just a hard area to see, so we don't really know what went on back there. The other unusual thing in terms of behavior that I observed, it was unusual not only to see a couple of bears, having a disagreement on the lower river, but also for 901 to do that. Because I personally, I don't know if you have or cam viewers have observed her pushing off other bears from her cubs, but I really haven't seen her do that. Whereas I've seen other bears like 482, who is an experienced mom and has two and a half year olds. I saw her actively push away a couple of subs, and they weren't that close to her cubs, but she really pushed them off. So at this moment, it was that also was unusual because I haven't seen 901 do that this season.
And to continue this story, so later on in that evening, the camera operators found a couple of cubs in a spruce tree or spruce trees in, sort of in the vicinity where we saw 901, where we saw Chunk before. And those cubs remained in the tree. This is from, I think this is like, I don't know, 10 p.m. or 2 a.m. or something. They were there all night. They were there through much of the morning. Naomi, they probably were there when you came to work this morning, I'm sure, because I think they were still there around I can check my notes because I was trying to look at the cameras earlier today. Yeah, 10 a.m. Alaska time, they were still there. They may have been there longer than that. I had to attend to some other things this afternoon, so I'm not sure when they came out of the tree, but they were there quite a long time.
Yeah, no, when I came across the bridge, there was another ranger there with binoculars and confirming that they were still there. And obviously, they were there for a lot longer, which is unusual, right, Mike?
Yeah, cubs climb trees frequently. It's unusual to have cubs in the tree this long. So when you're
Right.
going on 12 hours or more, usually no. Um, this to me, this did not say that mom had somehow abandoned them or didn't know where they were. Mother could have just been sleeping in the bushes below them that we just couldn't see, and for whatever reason she didn't bother to call them down, or they didn't feel comfortable coming down. In 901, and other mother bears sometimes will leave their cubs in places where they think the cubs are secure, or maybe the cubs feel secure, or maybe the mother feels secure, and then they'll go fishing off in the distance. So cubs aren't always right next to mom. So that's something to be aware of. If you see cubs in trees, sometimes mother bears will do that on purpose so they can attend to other things. And
Yeah.
Naomi, I think you remember telling me 901 has a tendency to do that.
The times when she will park her cubs. In the beginning of the season, I saw her tree her cubs a couple times, but just for a short period of time. But will park her cubs and then be hundreds of yards away fishing. The other unusual thing is that she kind of stuck not in that area. I mean, she went off fishing during those 12 to 15 hours. Um, but she was not that far away for her, right? I mean, some mother bears will stick pretty close to their cubs. 901 is not a bear that does that normally.
Yeah, so mother bears have each has its own strategy for raising cubs. Just like in humans, I think we see these individual differences where some mothers are like, you know what, I'd like to let my kids run in the woods a little bit more, and other moms are like, what, are you crazy? There's mosquitoes outside. So each person has a different way of raising their children, and and mother bears are probably, I think, like that as well. But there was an update from later in the day, Naomi. It seems like a little bit of sad news, though, because for all night, people were watching cubs in the tree, looking for the third cub of 901's litter. But then 901, after her cubs came down out of the tree, walked along the beach in front of the lodge and the visitor center, where the cameras cannot see. But you were able to confirm that she only had two cubs with her at that time.
Yes, she only had two cubs, and actually, Ranger Felicia went down there with a camera and posted in the chat some pictures of 901 and her two cubs.
Yeah, so certainly a sad event. I don't think either Naomi or I want to really speculate on what happened or how the other bears were involved. We know there were other bears in the vicinity. I think that's about as far as we can go reasonably, um, because there's just not evidence to suggest there was. We know that Chunk was there. 164 was in the vicinity. It didn't seem like 164 really had anything to do with it. We couldn't really see what Chunk was doing. He just kind of appeared out of the brush, so he was there around that time. But did he cause a separation of that cub? Did a cub actually die? We don't know. Sometimes mother bears just get separated from their cubs, and in a situation that's really scary for cubs, like if you have a big bear in the vicinity coming towards you, and mother's nowhere nearby to protect you, cubs have it. Sometimes they'll scatter in different directions. So I don't want to say that a cub has died. I think we right now we can just say it's missing. So without further evidence, I'm not sure we can go any further than that.
Yeah, I mean, I do find it interesting that that 901 did stay in that area for so long and the cubs were treed for so long. I don't, I mean, there are different possibilities. I mean, she could have been looking for the other cub if the cub had been missing. I didn't hear any bawling from anywhere. Um, but that doesn't mean there wasn't a missing cub somewhere, or her cub could have been injured or dying or dead. We just don't know. And I think we have to become more comfortable with saying I don't know when we're watching the lives of these wild animals. We don't always know.